Yesterday we began to look at one of the most misunderstood events in American history, or certainly American religious history, and it's one of the things that helps to bring about the decline of Puritanism in New England in particular and America in general, and that's the Salem witch trials. We looked at some of the background, some of the things leading up to this particular point in history. We also looked at the different perspectives that people have had concerning what occurred during this event. We began to look at the event itself, at what the girls were doing, what transpired in their lives, the meeting with Tituba, some of the strange occurrences that were happening surrounding these girls. Today we're going to get to the accusations of the girls. So let me go forward here to that point. We have the context, the affliction we saw. There's Tituba and the girls. And I still don't have that right. I tried to fix that. It still didn't work out right. I'll have to work on that. Okay, the accusations of the girls. Here we go. First of all, the background. The most natural response when people started seeing these things occurring that we saw yesterday was to suppose some sort of physical malady, that there's something physically wrong with the girls causing this to happen. And of course, that's one of the explanations that people have today. It wasn't until a local physician examined them, and his conclusion was, there's nothing physically wrong with these girls. He said, quote, they're under the evil hand, unquote. And at that point, they began to suspect witchcraft. Well, if you suspect that there's witchcraft causing these kind of things to happen with these girls, and of course you want to know who are the witches. You want to find out where this is coming from. Well, Mary Sibley had a method that she had discovered somewhere that she shared for finding out, quote, who bewitched Betsy Paris and Nabby Williams. Now, this was done without the knowledge of Pastor Paris. The means used to make this discovery was to make a cake of rye meal. That was a common thing. But mix in it the urine of the children. Bake it in the ashes and give it to a dog to eat. It was believed that this witch's cake had the power to reveal whether witchcraft was afflicting a person with symptoms of illness. If the dog exhibited the same symptoms, then the presence of witchcraft was proven. Now, why a dog? Well, a dog was believed to be a common familiar, that is, a common spirit associated with the devil. The dog was then supposed to point to the witches who had afflicted the victim. So, they did some other similarly disgusting things in order to try to discover and kill witches during the whole period of the delusion. Now, Pastor Paris was upset when he found out about this, and he attributed this episode with the increase in the appearances of apparitions, or spirits, and, quote, what he called much mischief. He said it didn't matter if it was done with good intentions, calling it, quote, going to the devil for help against the devil. And he goes on to say, but by this means, it seems, the devil hath been raised amongst us, and his rage is vehement and terrible, and when he shall be silenced, the Lord only knows. Unquote. Next, the identity of the witches. As soon as news got out that witchcraft was involved in the afflictions, it was demanded of the afflicted ones who it was that bewitched them. Now, the reason why this was done in that particular way is because they had the belief that if a person exhibited demonic activity in them, that they did not bring it on themselves, that somebody else had to have done it to them. They believed that the devil couldn't act directly on people, but that he had to use other people to get to them. Do you follow? So they immediately disregarded any idea that the girls had any culpability, but assumed that they must be the recipients of what other people were doing to them, the witches were doing to them. Does everybody follow what their thinking was? Any questions about what I just said? All right, so they want to know from the girls, who is it that is bewitching you? What witch is it that is causing these things to happen to you? All those strange things that we heard yesterday. Well, who's the first person that would be accused? Logically speaking, who would be the first one to be accused of witchcraft? Tituba, right? Because she actually has the knowledge about all of that from her father and grandfather. And so she was accused first, and she confessed association with witchcraft. Now, what seems strange to us is that if a person confessed, that brought acquittal. In other words, you weren't punished. But if you failed to confess, and the evidence pointed to guilt, that simply evidenced a lack of contrition, a lack of conviction or feeling sorry for what you've done, and then the judgment would be extremely hard. So the best thing to do might be just to confess and say, oh yeah, okay, I'm a witch, I did it. But then nothing would happen to you, at least to your person. Now you could lose your property and things like that. But Tituba didn't have any, she was a slave. So for her it was nothing to confess. And nothing further really happened to her. All right, but when Elizabeth Parris, in response to her father's demands, pointed an accusing finger toward Tituba, a chain reaction followed. Parris forced Abigail Williams to supply further names. They weren't satisfied with just the one. They said there's got to be more than one witch out there because we've got a lot of girls that are experiencing these afflictions. And so he asked for more names. And Abigail Williams gave him a couple. She named Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne, with an E on the end. Asking the girls for names of the guilty set off the course of accusations and ultimately trials and executions. This is what got the ball rolling. The most effectual way to prevent an accusation would be what? What do you think? If you wanted to prevent being accused of being a witch, what's the best way to prevent that? Exactly, accuse somebody else. And so that's what, can you see how this is getting worse and worse? It's a snowball going down the hill, gathering more and more snow as it goes along. So initially, one person is accused. The pastor says, come on, give me more names. Okay, the girls give him a couple more names. And then we finally get more names, and then people realize, if I don't want to be accused, I better be an accuser. And so people start accusing one another, and there's more and more and more. So the number of accusations increased, and the number of afflicted increased every day. And of course, every time somebody else was afflicted, that led to another accusation. Now, looking back at this, it seems evident that there were people who were very godly people who were accused of witchcraft, and the reasoning behind it seems to be a matter of personal jealousy. People like Rebecca Nurse was accused by Ann Putnam. Rebecca Nurse was a very godly woman. The wife of Governor Phipps eventually would be accused. The wife of Reverend John Hale of Beverly was accused. These were people that normally would be above reproach, and yet they were accused of being witchcraft, apparently out of jealousy. So then we come to the trials. The advent of the trials, the beginning of it. Now, put yourself in that position. You are a person who's been accused of witchcraft, and you know you're not guilty. You know you're innocent. You are a person who follows God. What will you do? What's the easy thing to do? What's the easy way to get out of it? Just confess, right? And then you're done. No more trouble. Get jail out of free card, right? But if you are a godly person, will you confess to witchcraft? Why not? You'd be lying. And so there were a number of people that would not confess because of their moral character. One person wrote this. Some of the accused may have been indeed guilty of what would be described today as telepathy, clairvoyance, or physical phenomena, unquote. But there were some who were not guilty of anything, would not confess. As the jails filled, the governor appointed a court by two men, Oyer and Terminer, to hear the cases beginning on June 2nd, 1692. Now remember the political situation? The Massachusetts has lost their charter, the king has taken over, and they're in between time when there is no court system. And so one has to be appointed. The governor that had been appointed by the king to take over just has to set up a court to hear this, because it's an immediate difficulty that has to be taken care of. And so he just appoints a couple guys to judge over this court. All right, now let's look at the evidence that was given during the trial. Now, again, understand, it's difficult to look back at what happened there from our own perspective because we have different standards. The standards they used in the trial we're going to find strange, but that was common at the time, all right? But we do need to understand what they were looking at. Okay, first of all, there was the testimony of admitted witches. So there were people that confessed to being a witch, and then they were able to give testimony that was believed. Now we might look at that and say, well, why would we believe a witch, right? But that's not how they looked at it. In fact, I have here today for us to look at the examination of Tituba. And I thought it would be fun if we kind of acted this out. Of course, we haven't prepared, but you can just read this. So I need someone to be Tituba and someone to be the prosecutor. Preferably a woman for Tituba. Any volunteers to read Tituba? All right, Sally, have you ever done a Jamaican accent? Got to start now? You don't want to try it out in front of your peers here? Okay, how about a guy for the prosecutor? Who wants to be the prosecutor? No guys want to? Okay, we'll give it to Lahana. And also, Lahana, when we get to, there's a little paragraph of description, you can read that as well. Use a different voice maybe for that. Okay, now you guys need to speak very clearly. Can you do it from there, or do you want to come up here? Okay, speak clearly, loudly, so that we catch it all on the video. All right, here we go.
Did you know what evil spirit have you
Okay, it needs to be louder in order for that to catch it. Okay, start again. Nice. Okay, look, you guys need to come up here. Come up here, right? Do you mind being on camera? Do you mind being on camera? All right, come on up. Come on. This is your chance for stardom. You'll be on YouTube, and you know how hard it is to get on YouTube. Okay, now maybe we should put Tituba in a seat. Micah, bring that chair up here behind you, and we'll put Tituba in the seat, and yeah, Lahana, let's put the chair right there where you're standing. Over this way, Lahana. And okay, do your thing now.
Tituba, what evil spirit have you familiarity with?
None.
Why do you hurt these children?
I do not hurt them.
Who is it then?
The devil, for aught I know.
Did you ever see the devil?
The devil came to me and bid me serve him.
Who have you seen?
4 women sometimes hurt the children.
Who were they?
Goody Osborne and Sarah Good, and I do not know who the other were. Sarah Good and Osborne would have me hurt the children, but I would not. She further saith, there was a tall man of Boston that she did see.
When did you see them?
Last night at Boston.
What did they say to you?
They said, hurt the children.
And did you hurt the children?
No, there is 4 women and 1 man. They hurt the children, and they lay all upon me, and they tell me that I will not hurt the children. They will hurt me.
But did you not hurt them?
Yes, but I will hurt them no more.
Are you not sorry you did hurt them?
Yes.
Then why then do you hurt them?
They say, hurt children, or we do worse to you.
What have you seen?
A man come to me and say, serve me.
What service?
Hurt the children, and last night there was an appearance that said, kill the children, and if I would not to go hurting the children, they would do worse to me.
What is this appearance you see?
Sometimes it is like a hog, and sometimes a great dog. This appearance she saith she did see 4 times.
What did it say to you?
The black dog said, serve me, but I said, I am afraid. He said, if I did not, he would do worse to me.
What did you say to it?
I will serve you no longer. Then he said he would hurt me, and then he looked like a man and threatened to hurt me. She said that this man had a yellow bird that kept him, and he told me he had more pretty things that he would give me if I would serve him.
What were these pretty things?
He did not show me them.
What also have you seen?
2 rats, a red rat and a black rat.
What did they say to you?
They said, serve me.
When did you see them?
Last night, and they said, serve me, but I said I would not.
What service?
She said, hurt the children.
Did you not pinch Elizabeth Hubbard this morning?
The man brought her to me and made me pinch her.
Why did you go to Thomas Putnam's last night and hurt his children?
They pull and haul me and make me go.
And what would have you do?
Kill her with a knife.
Lieutenant Fuller and the others said at this time that when the children saw 3 persons and was tormented by them, that she did complain of a knife, that they would have her cut her head off with a knife. How did you go?
We ride upon sticks and are there presently.
All right, now, listen, did you catch that? She is saying that as a witch, they ride upon sticks. What does that sound like? Brooms, yeah. So this is a common idea that goes back to very early times, that witches went from place to place by getting on a stick, and then immediately they're transported. Not so much flying through the air as getting on the stick, they're transported to a different place. Okay, go ahead.
Do you go through the trees or over them?
We see nothing, but are there presently.
Why did you not tell your master?
I was afraid. They say they would cut off my head if I told.
Would you not have hurt others if you could?
They said they would hurt others, but they could not.
What attendance hath Sarah Good?
A yellow bird, and she would have given me one.
What meat did she give it?
It did such her between her fingers.
That's the spelling for suck. So in other words, she's saying, the question is, what food? When they said meat, they mean food. What food did it give her? And it says that she sucked between her fingers. So read that line again.
It did suck her between her fingers.
Did not you hurt Mr. Curtin's child?
Goody Good and Goody Osborne told that they did hurt Mr. Curtin's child, and would have had me hurt him too, but I did not.
What hath Sarah Osborne?
Yellow dog. He had a thing with a head like a woman and with 2 legs and wings. Abigail Williams, that lives with her Uncle Paris, said that she did see the same creature, and it turned into the shape of Goody Osborne.
What else have you seen with Osborne?
Another thing. Harry, it goes upright like a man, and hath only 2 legs.
Did you not see Sarah Good upon Elizabeth Hubbard last Saturday?
I did see her set a wolf upon her to afflict her. The persons with this maid did say that she did complain of a wolf. She further saith that she saw a cat with Good at another time.
What clothes doth the man go in?
He goes in black clothes, a tall man with white hair, I think.
How doth the woman go?
In a white hood and a black hood with a top knot.
Do you see who it is that torments these children now?
Yes, it is Goody Good. She hurts them in her own shame.
And who is it that hurts them now?
I am blind now. I cannot see. That's it.
All right, thank you. Yeah, give him a hand. So what did you get from that testimony? What did you learn from that testimony? You learned maybe a few things about perceptions of witchcraft at the time, which has got from place to place, what forms they took, certain animals that appear and then change into persons. Anything else? All right, so this is the kind of evidence that was accepted. So when she gave this, they assumed that everything she said was true. And the people that she accused, they assumed were real witches. They also used physical evidence by looking for signs that imps or the animals associated with demons or demons themselves had sucked blood from these people. And so they look for what are called teats. They look for little things, maybe similar to a skin tag or something like that, somewhere on the body, indicating that that's where these demonic beings are getting sustenance. They're sucking blood from the people by those methods. They also used torture on people to get answers. And the surprising thing to us is that legal counsel was denied for the accused. If you're accused of a crime, you didn't get a lawyer. There's no lawyering up back then. You didn't have a lawyer. You had to just defend yourself. The lawyer was on the side of the prosecution. And then the next thing, which the third thing here is spectral evidence was admitted. Spectral evidence means evidence from specters. And remember what we said, what are specters? When they use the word specter, to what do they refer to? Spirits. So if something happened that a spirit was communicating, they accepted that as being evidence. All right? So here is a painting that someone did of a woman being examined, looking for teats on her back, indicating that maybe a demon was sucking blood from her. And that's the kind of thing they were doing. Notice people falling down, falling around, all kinds of things going on there as they're examining. Here's another painting that shows the hysteria of some of the girls, different places around here. So the spectral evidence. They affirmed that they saw the ghosts of several departed persons. That is, the girls were being afflicted, particularly when in the courtroom. When they're in the courtroom, they saw lots of stuff. And whenever they reported it, it was accepted. Several of the girls would fix their eyes together on a certain place of the floor in front of the prisoner at the bar. Now, maybe you've heard that expression before, the prisoner at the bar. It doesn't mean he's somewhere drinking. It means that there is a wooden bar, a wooden, what would you call it? Well, it's sort of like in the front of auditoriums sometimes. There's like a bar across the front to keep people from maybe entering onto the stage or falling off the stage. And so the prisoner had to stand behind that as they were being examined. I don't think we can see it here in this picture. But the girl, if somebody was there behind the bar, one of the accused, some of the girls would stare at the floor right in front of them, not moving their eyes or bodies and not answering any questions asked of them. They were in a trance. And when the trance was over, they were taken away and asked what they saw while they're in their trance. They all agreed that they saw ghosts who looked at the prisoner at the bar with reddishness that looked as though the blood would fly out of their faces with indignation. Now, they would question the girls separately. They both would say they saw the same thing. While being afflicted, the girls sometimes were very greatly harassed to write their names in a devil book presented by a specter unto them. One cried out, I will not write. It is none of God's book. It is none of God's book. It is the devil's book for aught I know. When they steadfastly refused to sign, they were told that if they would but touch or take hold of the book, it would do. You don't have to sign it, just take a hold of the book. And then lastly, the diabolical propositions were so low and easy that if they would but let their clothes or anything about them touch the book, their torments would be eased. Various pins were taken out of the wrists and arms of the afflicted ones. Once during examination of one of the accused, one of the girls was called upon to speak, but a pin was run through her upper and lower lip. There were invisible forces at work in the courtroom. Here's a quotation from a person who saw this. Some of the afflicted, as they were striving in their fits in open court, have, by invisible means, had their wrists bound fast together with a real cord, so as it could hardly be taken off without cutting. This was without anybody doing it to them. Suddenly a cord wraps itself around the wrists, and they had to cut them to get them off. Some afflicted have been found with their arms tied and hanged upon a hook. Now, have you ever been in somebody's house that has hooks that hang their chairs? Anybody ever seen anybody that look like that, or maybe some of you have? It's what people did in olden times to get the chairs out of the way so they could sweep the floor. There were like pegs on the wall to hang your chairs, and so I think that's what they're talking about here. That they found these people hanging from these hooks on the wall. Now, from whence others have been forced to take them down so that they might not expire in that posture. They took them down so they wouldn't die hanging there. Some afflicted have been drawn under tables and beds by undiscerned forces, so as they could hardly be pulled out. So in other words, suddenly one of these girls would be drugged under a table or under a bed by no one. And when someone tried to pull them out, it was very difficult to pull them back out again. One was drawn halfway over the side of a well and was with much difficulty recovered back again. So these are the kind of things that are happening during the trial and outside the courtroom as well. Now, what was the effect on the accused? When the girls were experiencing a severe fit, if an accused person's hand was laid upon them, the girl was immediately relieved from their tortures. So, for example, let's say that Jessica is one of the girls, and she's experiencing great affliction, and she says that Lydia is the witch that's causing it. And so they would direct Lydia, put your hand on her. Oh, it suddenly stopped. That's evidence that Lydia must be the witch that's doing it. You see how that worked? But the accused simply looked at the girl, then she was instantly struck down again. That's pretty good evidence, it would seem, at least for them. For this reason, the face of the accused was covered while their hand was laid on the afflicted girl, bringing about the desired effect of relief. The onset of afflictions occurred even if they were brought into the presence of an accused in a crowd unknown to the girls. So in other words, you couldn't say that the girls, like Jessica, saw Lydia looking at her and so she's pretending to have a fit. It would happen even if she didn't know that Lydia was there. We talked about some of the physical manifestations. We've heard a lot. Here are some more. You thought you heard it all? Sometimes in their fits, they had their tongues drawn out of their mouths to a fearful length, their heads turned very much over their shoulders, and while they had been so strained in their fits, and had their arms and legs and so on rested as if they were quite dislocated, the blood hath gushed plentifully out of their mouths for a considerable time together, which some, that they might be satisfied that it was real blood, took upon their finger and rubbed it on the other hand. So that they wanted to make sure it really was blood and not just something that they put in their mouth. The contortions were such that no one could have physically done these things, according to the descriptions. But that very observation led the leaders to be convinced that, quote, such grievous sufferers could not be voluntarily conversant with the devil. In other words, they looked at it and said, these girls that are suffering so much, it can't be their own fault, because why would they do something that would cause so much suffering? It must be other people doing it too. You see their thinking? Now, there were some private conversations. While they were in their trance fits, the girls were sometimes heard to converse with the specters as if they were real persons. For example, good wife, be gone, be gone, be gone. Are you not ashamed, a woman of your profession, to afflict a poor creature so? What hurt did I ever do you in my life? You have but 2 years to live, and then the devil will torment your soul for this. Your name is blotted out of God's book, and it shall never be put into God's book again. Be gone, for shame. Are you not afraid of what is coming upon you? I know what will make you afraid, the wrath of an angry God. I am sure that will make you afraid. Be gone. Do not torment me. I know what you would have. And we judged she meant her soul. But it is out of your reach. It is clothed with the white robes of Christ's righteousness. So she's talking to a spirit that nobody can see except her, who represents a person that they knew. This same young woman also disputed with the specter about a text of Scripture, during which her mouth was drawn to one side and her body strained violently for about a minute. The author began to read from this passage, at which time the young woman opened her eyes and was well. Now, some of the afflicted affirmed seeing what they called the black man. Now, I think what they meant was a man dressed in black. That was a common description of how the devil appeared to people, a man dressed in black. They didn't picture him as dressed in red underwear with a tail, so much. They saw him dressed in black. Sitting on the gallows that they would construct, whispering in the ears of some of the condemned just before their executions. The afflicted declared several things to be done by witchcraft, which happened before some of them were born, like strange deaths of persons that had occurred, the casting away of ships, and so on. And they said that the specters, the ghosts, the spirits told them what had happened. Well, next we have the course of the trials. I've listed there once again the girls involved because it's a longer list now, so that you can see that these are real people and you can get a sense of the ages of these people. Here are the girls, the original group of girls meeting with Tituba, and then more accusers that came after them. I think on your text you have some that are bold-faced. The bold-faced are the ones that were originally, no, I'm sorry, these are the ones, let's see if I have a note at the bottom. The ones that bold-faced are new members of the group. So I have Elizabeth Parris, the 9-year-old daughter of Pastor Parris. Abigail Williams was there before. Ann Putnam was there before. Mrs. Ann Putnam now joins the group of accusers. Elizabeth Hubbard, 18. Mary Warren was there before, as was Mercy Lewis, Mary Walcott. Sarah Bibber, a 36-year-old, joins the group of accusers. Elizabeth Booth. Mrs. Gertrude Pope, a wealthy middle-aged matron, becomes an accuser. Elizabeth Churchill, a servant girl, and Susanna Sheldon. During the course of the trial, 140 people were accused of witchcraft. 55 confessed, and therefore won immunity from execution. 19 indictments were returned guilty, along with 2 dogs. 2 dogs were found guilty of witchcraft. Find that interesting? Now, again, there are 19 people that are going to die here when we're talking about who they are. And it's tragic. But it pales in comparison with what was happening in England during the 17th century, where thousands of accused witches were executed. Matthew Hopkins, the witch finder general, that's an official position in England, witch finder general, brought at least 200 to the gallows from 1645 to 1647. Moderate estimates of witch executions in England between 1580 and 1680 total at least 3,400. By contrast, in Massachusetts, 28 victims were executed in a century for witchcraft. So what happened at Salem was an awful thing, but it is nowhere nearly as bad as what happened in other places, especially England. Now, it doesn't mean that it's right, but it tells you what the times were like and how people were of a mindset to see things this way. Now, tomorrow, we'll go through the list of those who were executed. And we're going to read a very interesting letter from one of those who were condemned. Let's see what you think about that. Any questions about what we've talked about today? I want you to read the article, read and highlight the article, Something Wicked This Way Comes. And there's also an excerpt from The Light and the Glory that I want you to read for tomorrow. It may say Monday on the assignment board, but let's do that for tomorrow. All right? Read the article, Something Wicked This Way Comes, and the section that's in your notes from The Light and the Glory that talks about this event. Any questions? Okay, don't forget your interim reading project is due on Monday, so be working on that.